I really enjoy it. I sometimes I'll be making a video and I need to refer back to something that happened in the past, and I'll just watch the whole episode just to remember that time. And I'm like, even if nobody watches this is a great memory for me. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
gonna
and the cool thing is that someone it doesn't mean that no one's gonna watch it. Like I've had videos where they didn't get much views forever for years, and all of a sudden, for some weird reason, they get picked up, and bam, everybody's interested in the thing. You know, and you're like, what? That's so
maybe
crazy.
maybe being on the Jehu Garcia podcast will
You
skyrocket me to the moon.
you never know. I'm kind of doing the same thing as everyone. I'm starting all over because my channel, my audience doesn't is not used to this long form content,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I'm not getting a ton of views on these. And some audience is starting to find it already, right? And so that's good. But I feel like I'm starting all over again. It's like it doesn't matter if I have 300,000 subscribers. It doesn't matter because when
Yeah.
I put these videos out there, it takes just as much work. And then I put them up there, and it's like, the videos they didn't come in the tens of thousands of videos, of views or whatever. But I'm
But you,
like, it doesn't matter. I enjoy doing this. I'm just gonna keep going, and eventually it'll grow to an audience
yeah, you
where
get to talk to cool people, I guess, all the time. That like, I'm not trying to call myself cool, but you get to talk to cool people all
well,
the
you're
time. And
doing cool stuff. I mean, not everyone gets up and tries to travel the world in a converted, you know,
I think
electric
there's
car.
I think there's two of us on the planet. So
No,
yeah,
there's quite a bit of them actually, but like, yeah, you're one of them, and I should know more about this thing. And I know that you've been in my radar because people have told me in the comments, every once in a while, you're just like, oh, you should check out these guys. They're doing this thing or whatever. Yeah, it's interesting. So let's talk about the chapter 1 and 2. How was that um, experience? How long did it take to travel all of like Alaska and part of Canada, right? All the way you made it into
yeah.
the
So
border of U.S.
the route was from up the Arctic Circle, and we drove down the main highway, basically all the way through into the Yukon Territory, and then basically into British Columbia, and then straight down to Vancouver. And that was chapter 1.
How long did that
Yeah,
take?
that took about, so we were using up there. They have a hydro grid up there, and
Okay.
winter was coming. So where we couldn't charge off solar, we were plugging into the grid,
Okay.
into the hydro grid. We even like did an episode where we went to a hydro dam. There was like a runner river hydro. A lot of my content is based around energy and where it comes from and all of that sort of stuff. So we try to pick those sorts of stories out and
Yeah.
highlight where this energy is coming from, because that's a big part of electrification and the future of energy
Yeah.
and the purpose of what we're doing. But yeah, like it took about 3 months, I think, from there to Vancouver. If we solar charged, we wouldn't have made it. We would have just got stuck, and it wouldn't have happened. So
Because of
that
time constraints, or I mean, you'll eventually charge. I know the sun is it's at the Arctic Circle. There's not a lot of sun, right? It's like the
no,
angle, it's really low, and so
comes up like this and goes down, never goes over your head. So
yes. So
uh,
then you would just take forever to charge because now you have a giant pack. It's 130
20.
kilowatt hours to 120 kilowatt hours. Okay, for those of you who don't know, that's an obscenely giant battery pack. I mean, anything you haven't seen a battery pack bigger than that probably. Most average people have not. It's like I guess it would be like 120,000 iPhones or something like that. That's the equivalent of the energy that you have in there, right? Like, if you have
I
to,
love putting things into perspective for people. That's a really good one. If you don't mind, I'm going to take that one from now on. It's like 120,000 iPhones.
yeah. I mean, that's essentially that's what you got there.
Uh-huh.
So
So yeah, we plugged in. So it took less time than what we wanted, what we probably would have if we did solar. But I also left in August, and we made it to Vancouver in November. We made it in November. So by the time, in the Pacific Northwest, I don't know if you spent much time up there. It's by the time October comes around, like we got caught in snowstorms already
okay,
up there.
yeah,
So, and we were solar charging at the time because there was no grid. There's places where the grid just doesn't exist up there. So, um,
yeah,
we got caught in snowstorms, and we were trying to make like 30 miles, you know, just to get to the next hydro charging station. And it'd take us a week, and we'd just be sitting there with no reception. We ran out of food a couple of times, like we had to like hitchhike into town, and the truckers were like, "What the hell are you doing out here? Like you are, there's grizzly bears everywhere. You like there's no one here. Like what are you doing here?" And we're like, "Well, crazy story, but we're trying to drive to Argentina." And they're like, "Where's Argentina? What the hell?"
You're in the wrong continent, buddy. Come on.
So it was quite the adventure. It was actually, I just did a post this morning on my Instagram, actually, just sort of like talking about, that was for me like the first electric vehicle I ever owned was this vehicle. So that's like one step in the direction of understanding energy and how we use it, and maybe the future of technology as far as locomotion and all of that sort of stuff. So I was going through that, but then also with the, you know, the renewable energy constraints and all of that sort of stuff, I was also weaning myself off of fossil fuels. And there was a lot of like things that were happening in my brain that were like, bing, like I was sort of like, whoa, like this is a big deal. This is different. This is something that we can achieve, you know? And I kind of like was having all of those sort of ooh-ah moments in my own experience. And then along with all of like the beautiful, it's so beautiful up there, Jehu. Like it's just incredibly beautiful. The mountains, the glaciers, the animals, it's wild, you know?
It's a big place too, right? I mean, it's giant. It's like a whole country of its own over there.
It just never ends. Like it's, you know, and people are, you know, nice and lovely. I mean, they're not Californians. They're still Alaskans, so they like their guns and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But super kind and super welcoming and very inviting and yeah, so super fun in that regard. So had a lot of fun in chapter 1. It was a really good time, and it was kind of like my awakening. You know, it was like, whoa, like I'm here, I'm doing it. I can remember like getting off the ferry, because I took a ferry from Washington and Bellingham to get up to Alaska in the first place. I didn't drive the whole way up, because I was in Portland, in Oregon. So I had to.
So you skip Canada, basically.
Basically, to get up there, and because I was running out of time, that, you know, the snow was going to come and start destroying everything for the year. So I just raced up there on a ferry, and what was I saying? When I got off the ferry, I was alone, and we'd never really even tested the van. We'd never even taken it out into a park or anything to even just like see how fast or slow it would charge, or like I had no idea what mileage I was going to be able to get off of the solar panels. Yeah, so I was very much like
testing on the field, in the field.
Exactly. I got off the ferry, and I can remember just being like, what the hell am I doing? Like just like kind of slapping myself, like it's real, like it's happening. And so yeah, I just started driving and just worked things out. So it was a very like raw, real, adventurous, awakening moment, you know, and I loved it. I had such a good time. And a tough time too. I'm not saying it was all easy. Like there was a lot of like, I was drained because we just spent 2 months converting the thing, you know, we had to use a lot of our brain and physical energy to do that. And then just this whole new like range anxiety, all of these range anxiety with solar, you know, the solar charging aspect and grids and working out how to use electricity safely and all of these sorts of things were sort of like very draining. But yeah, looking back.
And you're starting in a very like one of the toughest places. It's going to get easier as you move down. And then it's going to start getting harder again as you move south of the equator, right? But
if I time it right, though, you know, like when you get up into the poles, the polar regions, you know, summers are brighter than winters are dark, but the summers are actually brighter. You know, the sun doesn't go down sometime. You know,
it's like on like 24 hours. It just goes around, right? Like
exactly, it just goes around you. So if you can get your solar panels angling at the sun, it's like it's a positive. It can be. It's obviously not as strong, but the solar energy is not as strong. The photovoltaic energy is not as strong, but it's still available. You can still make it happen. So.